Hey guys, what's going on? BMcG here, and today we're here to talk about the Man-Thing buff. So, I've been a big fan of Man-Thing for probably quite a while now. It's been years. Man-Thing was one of the first Mystic characters that I really started to enjoy in this game, and it's just because he was so funky and unique. And he recently got a buff with the new Ascension pool, and his buff is pretty good. It basically takes a lot of his synergies that made him usable before and it just baked them into his kit. There is one drawback, and we'll get into it, but overall, I think it's a really solid buff. It makes him very usable on his own. It makes him a little bit more potent on defense, although he's not really going to change too much. If you know how to fight Man-Thing before, you know how to fight him now. But one thing I do want to cover is that his signature ability, we are using a Sig 200 Man-Thing. He really doesn't need high Sig at all. Because the Sig scales extremely poorly. So at Sig 20, you get 10% regen, 10% of missing health. And if you increase that to Sig 200, that only increases by 2%. So if you have Man-Thing rank 4 Sig 20, the results are going to be very similar to what you see in this video here. And then for my mastery tree, we are running just my normal setup. This is the attack tree. There's nothing really notable here other than Despair. But on the defense tree, we're running 3 out of 3 recovery. That's going to boost that regen that we have from the signature ability. It's pretty sweet. It's going to increase it by 15% from recovery. So we have that. We also have Inequity, which reduces the opponent's attack rating for each debuff that you have on them. And yeah, Man-Thing places a lot of debuffs, so that's pretty huge for him as well. And then the last mastery that I want to call out is Mystic Dispersion. This one's a must. Whenever you nullify a buff, you're essentially gaining a bunch of power. And then for the relic, we are going to be running the Juggernaut relic. I have this at rank 4, Sig 110. And for the runes, we're using the Rejuvenate passive when you gain an unstoppable effect. And then the next one, we're getting increased regen potency. And then finally, we're getting increased combat power rate. I find this one pretty important because it helps build to your specials, it's pretty cool. So we're going to get right into the gameplay here. And I'm going to pretty much cover the 2 ways that you could play Man-Thing. So we're going to start here against Serpent. And there are 2 main ways that I suggest playing Man-Thing. So for most opponents, you're going to want to play this way. So what we're doing is medium, light, medium. Striking a buffed opponent with medium attacks grants agitation, which essentially gives you attack rating. So we're going to build to just under 2 bars of power, launch the special 1, and then immediately launch another special 1 after comboing. So we're at 50 agitation right now. And then what we're going to do is launch a heavy here. That nullifies all those toxic buffs that we are placing. And then the change that's the biggest change from the buff is that you gain agitation when nullifying buffs. So now you can see here, we have really decent attack rating, which led to that damage per second from that poison being really solid. And that's pretty much how you want to play Man-Thing now, is 2 special 1s, heavy, and then the special 3. The special 3 gives you a fury based on your agitation level, which is why we are dealing even more damage afterwards. So yeah, it's really good. That was 58 seconds for Serpent. And then the next way that you can play Man-Thing is if you're going against somebody with tons of buffs that you can nullify, you're basically just going to loop special 2s. Because the special 2s, when you nullify buffs via the special 2, it's going to give you that agitation like I was mentioning earlier, because you gain +5 when you nullify a buff. So we just need this guy to bait a special 1. Now we're going to go in here and just drop our special 2. And there we go. Now we can just loop special 2s. And this is why Mystic Dispersion is so important. It's allowing us to just cycle these special 2s. And the poison damage per second is getting high. The armor breaks are allowing our hits to just deal massive hit damage. So yeah, those are the 2 main ways you could play Man-Thing, but the main way you're going to play him is the 2 special 1s into a special 3, and then your opponent should pretty much just melt from there. That will handle most Battlegrounds health pools in 50 to 60 seconds. It's not the fastest. He's obviously going to be faster against champs who have tons of buffs for you to nullify, but he's extremely serviceable for, champions who don't, have all kinds of buffs. So yeah, Dark Phoenix here, we go for the 2 special 1s, then we go for the heavy. That's over 8,000 damage per second, 4,000 damage per tick. And then we go for the special 3. That places 3 toxic buffs as well. So now we just need to nullify those with a heavy attack again. And that's going to be even more damage because of the agitation. So yeah, he's really solid, like genuinely really solid on his own. And the one change I wanted to talk about, it's very important here, is that Man-Thing no longer has an on-contact nullify chance on attack. So you're not going to accidentally nullify that immortality that Dark Phoenix has, which would lead to her getting a passive version, making the fight drag out even longer. So it makes him a safe option for Dark Phoenix. If you have to face a lot of Dark Phoenix, like, he's going to be a really decent option if you don't have a lot of good ones, or if your good ones get banned. He is a serviceable option now. So I'm just going to start talking about like more of my opinion on the buff, and just let the rest of this gameplay play out, because there are some fights here that he's pretty decent for. Like Hulkling, it's not an ideal matchup. He's poison immune. If you nullify the indestructible, he gets a passive version. So yeah, not an ideal match, and we still take it down in a decent amount of time. So yeah, back to my thoughts on the Man-Thing buff. When I first started playing with him after I, tested the buff, like I think it was yesterday, I was a bit like not excited, kind of disappointed, kind of bummed out, because I was really like looking into the nostalgia of having that on contact nullify, because that was one of the biggest draws that like drew me to Man-Thing back when I first started using him. He was like my main nullify champion, and it's like I liked him just because he was extremely funky and like really cool. He would double dip in Mystic Dispersion, because when he nullifies a buff, he turns it into a toxic buff, which then he nullifies that again, so it allows him to double dip with Mystic Dispersion. I thought it was really cool, but as I've tested him more, I think that the changes that they've made kind of outweigh that one negative. Because before, like the results you're seeing right now, Man-Thing would need like 2 to 3 full synergy teams, or 2 to 3 full synergies and a synergy team to do this. Whereas now, he's just doing this on his own. So if you run him in Battlegrounds as a defender when you get him, like if you get him Ascended, you can take him to rank 4, have him Ascension level 1, he'll have the Might mechanic, he'll have ISO Burst, and he'll have the extra Challenger rating that comes from being Ascended, which makes him tankier. He's already a mega tank. He has a really high health pool, doesn't take additional damage from critical hits. So yeah, I think it's going to really make it to where if you want to use him in your Battlegrounds deck, it's not just like you're defending or you're drafting a defender. It's to where like you can actually use him on attack if you need to. And like I mentioned earlier, his rotation where you go 2 special 1s, heavy, into a special 3, that can work for pretty much anyone who's not poison immune. So yeah, I'm pretty happy overall. And then I want to close out the video here with a mega boosted full synergy team Man-Thing here against the Necropolis boss. And I usually do this in all my showcases. I try to showcase the character in short form content, and then I try to showcase them in like long form endgame content. And I honestly think that Man-Thing might be pretty decent for like Coliseum stuff. I think he is tanky enough and has enough damage per second that I think he can do some really fun things, especially if the opponent's not poison immune or if they have a lot of buffs. So yeah, it could be really fun in Coliseum. And yeah, I mean, he took down this Red Goblin in a really decent time, and we're pretty much sitting at max agitation throughout the whole fight. And this is one of the more perfect fights to showcase Man-Thing in, because there's a lot of buffs for you to nullify, but there's not enough to where you could just like keep spamming special 2s over and over. So you're going to be using like every single special attack in this fight. So yeah, just to recap, I'm pretty happy with the buff. I think he's good now on his own, which wasn't really true before. He was pretty painful to use and slow on his own without synergies. And now he's in a state where he's serviceable. His regen from his SIG is more protected because it's a passive. I also think it heals more overall, and it triggers at any health threshold, not just below 50%. So overall, like the sustain is better. The damage is overall better on average. I think the ceiling came down slightly, but I don't even know if that's true, because you're going to be having higher agitation in just normal matchups now due to the changes with that. So you're like overall going to have more damage than you did before. He got a little buff on defense by making the nullify chance on contact 25% instead of the 15% from before. But now it only triggers on defense, not on attack. So it gives you a more focused nullify where like you're not gonna randomly trigger the nullify when you don't want to, but that also comes with a drawback of losing it as like a random nullify when you might want it to work. So that is literally the only negative though, and everything else is positive or extremely positive. So overall, it like washes out. I think he's pretty good. I think he's going to be fun. I'm probably going to include him in a lot of my Battlegrounds decks just because I enjoy him. And I honestly think he's going to almost reinforce bringing certain science champions back into your deck. Because a lot of people haven't been running like buff immune champions anymore. And to like properly account for him, you kind of need to. Or you need to bring poison immunes at least. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he affects the meta if people like rank 5 him and ascend him, because then he's going to be stronger than like most other champions, most other defenders. So it'll be really interesting to see how this affects the meta. And yeah, let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below. Love reading your guys' comments. This is going to be it for me, guys. I'm just going to let the rest of this fight play out. I will catch you guys for the next video or stream. Peace out.